Good morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number, 497 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Cryer Media Network. Yeah! Today, recording day is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024, and it's still a beautiful day at the Beaver Lodge, a beautiful day for some beaver. Anyway, I'm here. I knew you were going to do that. I knew you were going to do that.
You know how funny that sounds coming from a gay man, right?
I know. I
The
know.
double entendre is just off the charts.
I know. I just gotta be me. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver, and with me, thankfully, because I missed you, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. Big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today, sir?
Well, when I wake up fully, I'll let you know. My allergies are kind of kicking my butt this morning. Eyes are itchy, watery, which is weird. And I've been sort of sneezy, a little bit congested. So I've had a couple of bouts of sinusitis lately.
Okay.
Which is, I don't know if you've ever had to suffer through that, but it's really not pleasant.
Just once.
It's very unpleasant and can be quite painful.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's that's where the physical health is. The mental health, I think, is okay. I honestly don't have a meter stick I can measure it by at the moment because I'm not fully awake and I'm allergy laden today. So how the mental health will be later in the day is yet to be determined, to be honest.
All right.
I think I'm okay.
Go with how you feel.
Well, look at it this way. I'm not hating myself and I don't feel the depths of despair and I'm not anxious. So I'd say that's, a baseline that's pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Kits and Cubs, curling report, of course, because you're waiting for it. We had a bad start last night. The other team scored 4 in the first end. They were playing lights out. But we did get to the point where we had the tying point in the rings with the other team having last shot, but they made their last shot. So unfortunately we lost, but valiant comeback on our part. So there you go. Got to take the good. All right. Today, Kits and Cubs, in the news, we're going to get the Bank of Canada interest rate announcement in about 3 hours. There's speculation all over the place that the cut can go anywhere from 25 basis points up to a super cut of 75 basis points.
Yeah.
Have no idea what it's going to be. the job numbers showing that unemployment rate went down 0.1% after a couple of months of going up is somewhat positive, was leading people to believe that the cut would be 25. And then we got that 1.6 inflation number fueled, not intended, because I wasn't that clever when I thought of it, fueled mostly by a drop in gas prices that were down 10.7% year over year, or 10.47% year over year from a year ago. So, I mean, and gas prices swing. So the next inflation number quite very much likely will be up. And then you're going to have conservatives going screaming, but I mean, 1.6 is below the target too. So, I mean, it's a little abnormally low, actually, at the moment. But with that all together and with the numbers in the US, it does look like there is a case for, at the most optimistic, 75 basis points. And there has been lots of pressure from the economic community to say that the Bank of Canada is still a little behind the curve so that they could do this. So we're waiting to see on that one. I'm thinking if there is pressure for 75, then maybe expectations for 50 will probably be more reasonable. But hey, you never know. It can surprise us.
Yeah.
They've been one of the central banks to go the earliest in sort of setting the tone for, rate cuts and all that type of stuff. So
let's see what happens. I have to share this graphic, which I don't know if you had a chance to show this yesterday, but I'm going to share this graphic real quick, and we'll have a short chat about it, because you know how I feel. Polls. They're pretty useful.
Yeah.
New Brunswick election. Polls show tight race between Liberals and incumbent Tories. Yeah. That amounts to nothing.
Well, see, now if you were watching the show, right, because we checked in a few times, you did learn that somewhere along the way. Now, there wasn't a ton of polling in New Brunswick, and most of the polling was done by a polling company that 338.com rates as a C+ for reliability. So there wasn't that much on, right? So you got to take it with this headline also, and the criticism of the polling with a grain of salt in that sense. But when we looked back at the polling aggregator numbers 338, when I showed you, there was something that happened around October 4th that polls were showing, right? That things were going up. Now, depending on the date of that, of course, right? If that was sort of like, we're starting to see some movement around October 4th that there's a break, and it seems to be statistically significant. Yes. And that headline appears after that movement is detected. Well, then yes. Right. So I don't have the date, but I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that there still exists a scenario where it could not be. So we can't fill in the blanks without that. But we can't put anything past them, so it's always good to check.
Well, you like polls and I hate them. I think they're propaganda tools, personally feel that they're propaganda tools. I think, especially in this day and age, when the media is largely owned by a U.S. hedge fund, that they will lean heavy into telling you what they want you to hear, as evidenced by the Ford election in Ontario with a 43% voter turnout, because so many people were convinced, well, he's going to win anyway, so my vote doesn't count. Yeah, which is why I think once that writ is dropped, no polls. I'd like to see polls go away altogether, to be honest with you. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I hate them. I think they're propaganda tools. I think they're dangerous to democracy, especially in the day and age of social media.
Now, for me,
that's my opinion.
Yes, I know that. And for me, why I like them is because I understand that polls predict where people are at a certain pace in time. They're not predictor. They don't predict. And I don't use one single pollster like this. I bring attention to one single pollster when there's an outlier or something weird, like what's happening in Saskatchewan. I can show you one right now. So there's that type of stuff. But if you're looking, when I bring you the numbers, I always bring you the 338 numbers, right? Which is an aggregate, which is an average of all of them like this. And I never talk about I very rarely talk about focus on where people are now, but what you see, if you see a trend going, those are things that polling is useful. But problem is that you've got the actual data that you can look at, and the data is good. And then you got how each company tries to sell their data.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you start getting into the horse race thing. Right?
Yeah.
So, if you go on the news and the newscaster wants to talk about the horse race, you can spend your time talking about the horse race and promoting your product, or you can spend your time correcting the newscaster about, but no, this is what you really should be looking at.
Look at so much of this, and I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but so much of it, this goes back to Ronald Reagan ending the fairness doctrine when it came to news, because it spilled over the border into Canada, and especially when you had a prime minister who eliminated the foreign ownership laws for Canadian media companies. You see where I'm going? It's not a conspiracy. This is all true. All of these things happen because it started with that single pebble in the pond, ending the fairness doctrine. Then you have something like Fox News that comes along several years later and starts to paint the picture they want you to hear and see. Those who control the media control the message, and the message is what they want you to hear.
Right.
If the fairness doctrine was still in place, it would be a different story today.
Yep. And if our media ownership laws had not been changed by the previous government to allow majority foreign ownership of something that provides an essential service, in us being informed about our own country and our ability to cast a fully informed vote that is solely in our interests.
Correct.
Which is something that every government of every stripe should be seeking to protect in Canada, and I still do not understand for the life of me why it is the Liberal Party has not done a damn thing to try to fix that and correct that. Can we please have Canadian media by Canadians for Canadians?
Please.
For Canadian interests, please. That would be nice. Thank you. Let's fix that. That's something that was never broken, that didn't need to be fixed. And the people who tried to fix it made it way damn worse. Let's just go back to what we had. Thank you. Oh, boy. So, and then, of course, the other big news today will be this is the day where the Liberal caucus is the faction of the Liberal caucus that we are told exists, and I'm inclined to believe does indeed exist, because I've seen the interview on TV with Sean Casey, and he is definitely not strident. He is definitely not alarmist. He's definitely not out there. He's very calmed, very reasoned. He has thoughtful and not filling in blanks with wild stuff that he needs to be. He's got thoughtful and solid reasons, if you see it from another perspective, for why he believes what he believes. He doesn't. He states that whether Trudeau is the leader or not, he is still going to run under the Liberal banner, even with Trudeau as a leader. He just thinks it's so. I mean, he's not like, at the gates with, pitchforks and he's got to go. But it's like, if we're being honest, he's got to go.
Mm-hmm.
I'll still run as a Liberal. I'll follow him. I'll be a team player and whatnot. But if you ask me, he's got to go. So it's not the story that people want it to be, right? Because it's not. When we look at the conservative movement, sometimes in Canada and other places, we keep on saying it's like the mafia, but without the loyalty, because they're literally just like taking running leaps as they run with the knife to stab in the back. Right? It's like, right. This has got to be the most polite revolt, if revolt it is.
It's bizarre.
So, and people not wanting to necessarily have their names out and all that kind of stuff. So, is it? And then we've heard another thing that it's like not so much a demand that you go as some type of letter for some type of conversation or whatnot, or commitments to see some changes. But then I heard another interview of someone who's also put his name out when asked, is this going to be asked directly? Is this going to be something where you're asking them to go? I think this was Kevin McDonald, I believe his name was. Maybe not Kevin, but last name McDonald. He simply answered yes. So we have to, depending on who signed the letter that's willing to be publicly known, and I think there's maybe 3 names now. One is saying, the letter says, it is a letter saying it's time for you to go. We are asking you to go. The other one, the other news reports are saying that it's sort of like to have a reset or to get some type of like firm plan for the course ahead, so everybody can stop worrying and knowing that there actually is a plan. Thank you very much. Now, the Liberals have also just brought in their new campaign coordinator because Jeremy Broadhurst left. So now they have the new person that's been announced, and apparently there is going to be some type of message given that things are indeed about to change, the pieces are in place, and you're going to start seeing it soon. Will that be enough? Who knows? Because there is a little bit of leeway in terms of, they can go until like just after Christmas if they would like to make a change. The difference between Canada and the United States, though, is that in the United States, everybody had one candidate to rally behind, Kamala. Mm-hmm. This one will require a leadership convention. And then how much candidates want to go after another. And then if the party's trying to fundraise for an election, and then you got candidates trying to fundraise for a leadership race, does that help you in the election? Because you need the money. Mm-hmm. Right? So there may be a realization, part of the calmness might come from the realization that, well, even if he did go, especially the other subtext undercurrent going on with all of this is this an anti-liberal movement or an anti-incumbent movement? Because everybody could look at New Brunswick and going, hey, no, it's not an anti-liberal movement. Look, the crushing majority of Liberals just got there. But Higgs was an incumbency. David Eby was an incumbency. He got challenged, 46-45. And there it seems that all of the mail-in vote was tabulated, because I went back on the BC election site and it says 100 of the votes counted. So the 2 seats that were within 100 have not changed hands. In one seat, the one that had a difference of 23 or 26 or something like that, the margin narrowed by 3 votes with those last polls reporting. And then the other one, the margin actually increased a little bit. But they both have to be hand counted, and I believe they're going to do that between October 26th and 28th. So we should find out around 28th what the deal is. But so far, it doesn't look like things will change. All right. So yeah, that's what's going to be going down in the Liberal caucus today around noon. I guess we're going to start hearing about how things went down. Now, there is supposed to be some type of secrecy to these types of caucus meetings, but there are always scrums outside the caucus meetings when the parties emerge from them. So we're going to get a little bit, of course, all the journalists they're scrumming are going to be wanting to ask about, so what went down? How did it go? Did they lay down the law? Was there tension? And then eventually, of course, things are going to start leaking, as they always do when stuff like this happens. So again, take the news that comes through sources who wish to remain nameless, or sources that were in the room, or that type of thing, with a grain of salt, because there could be some intentionality for the reason for which they are sharing this information. Mm-hmm. That is not clear to the public, since we cannot identify who they are, and we just get the information that they give off the record, but no real detail about motive. So just, there could be something going on, but again, given the media that we have and the breathlessness of the 24/7 news cycle, and you've got to pump up the headline a little bit to get the clicks. Keep breathing through it. Eventually, we'll figure it out. This is the type of thing where the hot take, going with every drop and jumping up and down, it's probably not going to serve you. It's probably going to serve a lot of pundits are going to say things that are not going to age well over the next couple of days. If they're just reacting. All right. So that's the kind of newsy stuff that's going to be coming out today. I promised you, Kits and Cubs, in the previous show that I was going to have a little bit of stuff from the speeches in the most recent elections. And Mr. Grizzly, I think I would like to start in British Columbia with Mr. Rustad, because I would think out of all of them, he had the most interesting one in terms of tone and spin. Now, remember, this is a party that was nowhere about 14 months ago. Like, the BC Conservative Party existed for a long time. It was a party that never was shut down. So it was revived, but it was nowhere for many years. And then up until about, I don't know, maybe 16 to 18 months ago, was not particularly on the radar, and just went from that to a 46-45.
Well,
So there's a lot of spin in this that is completely legitimate
and let's
for
not
that
forget
type of achievement.
the candidate and the voters who said, "Well, we got to get rid of Trudeau." It's like, but there's no Liberal Party to.
I understand, because not talking about methods, tactics, or the validity of the content, the strict fact of going from being nowhere to missing a majority government by 2 and finishing just 1 seat behind a government that you've taken from a majority to now a confidence and supply agreement or coalition, depending on how they decide to run it.
Right.
That in its own self is a monumentous achievement. You don't have to like it, but you got to recognize it.
Oh, no.
So,
I'm not arguing with you. I agree.
But what I'm saying is that some of the spin makes sense in this context. But then when you add the fact that this is a completely unserious candidate with a totally freaking ridiculous platform,
yes,
that's when the eye rolls come in.
let's have a look at what he had to say.
Okay.
Wow, what a night. Thank you guys for being out. How does it feel now to have Conservative Party rockin' British Columbia? There's no question this has been a historic night. This has been a night where we have seen the political landscape in British Columbia change forever. And that's all because of you, because of the work that you guys have done and your support. So I just want to start by saying thank you to everybody who's been part of this Conservative Party in British Columbia. When I was first asked to consider taking on the leadership of the Conservative Party, I did question. I said, wait a second here. This party is at 2% in the polls. It hasn't elected anybody in almost 50 years. It hasn't formed a government in almost 100 years. But I looked at it, and in particular, I started going around the province, just jumping in my car, driving around with my chief of staff, and we would go and start meeting with a few people. And we'd have a couple of people in here, and maybe 4 people over there, maybe a dozen people in another community. And everywhere we went, we heard the same thing. People were hungry for common sense change in British Columbia. And that momentum kept growing. Every time we went to another location, we came back to the location, we'd have more. We'd have double, triple, quadruple the numbers that would come out. People from all across the province saying, you know what, I actually think we've got a shot to do something here. And that belief kept growing. That belief right around this province kept building to the point today now where we now have the strongest Conservative Party that this province has seen in 100 years. And the beauty of this is a grassroots movement. This is just people, that the salt of the earth, the hardworking, everyday people in this province that have stepped up to the plate and said, yes, we can do things different. We can envision a province that can bring hope and prosperity for people across the province. That is what we've been trying to do as the party. That's what we have brought forward. And that, quite frankly, is why we're seeing us still neck and neck with the NDP. And we have not given up this fight yet. We are going to keep pushing hard. And I believe strongly that this is what happens when you stand on values. This is what happens when you stand on principles. You put it out there, you say, this is our vision, this is what we can do for a province. This is where we can see our youth being able to build a future. And that is where I think we have gotten our strength. And I tell you something, we are so close right now. There is just a couple of seats that are just within 20, 30 votes that could very easily flip for us. There's still votes yet to be counted. And I am optimistic that the people in this province I'm optimistic that the people in this province are hungry for that change. And I can tell you something, what we have seen to date, because of the work that we've been doing, because of the pressure that we're putting on this government, think about it, they flipped on the carbon tax, they flipped on decriminalization, they flipped on involuntary care, they flipped on a whole bunch of things because they could see the damage that was being done. But I bet you this, and I'll say this right now, that if we have the unfortunate situation of David Eby being in a minority government, he will not do a single thing that he has promised. And that is something I'm almost guaranteed. And as the Conservative Party of British Columbia, if we're in that situation, we are going to make it as difficult as possible for this NDP to do any more destruction of this province. We are going to continue this fight. We are going to continue this fight over the next days, over the next weeks, over the next months. If we have that honor of forming government, I can tell you something, we still are not going to give up. We're going to fight every single day to try to make sure that we do everything we can to improve the lives of people in this province. People are counting on us. People are counting on the hope, on the opportunity, on the vision of what can be a British Columbia, a prosperous British Columbia, not one, quite frankly, that is in a welfare state that it is today. That is what we are going to continue to fight on as the Conservative Party of British Columbia, certainly now and over the years to come. And I can tell you something else. If we're in that situation of the NDP forming a minority government, we will look at every single opportunity from day one to bring them down at the very first opportunity and get back to the polls.
All right. So,
pretty inflammatory statements there.
is vowing to be an obstructionist force. Now, here's the thing. David Eby will not do a thing he promised, but we must put everything we have into obstructing him in not doing a damn thing he promised. If you are against all the things he promised, if you believe he won't do a damn thing, isn't that something that you would welcome and rejoice about and therefore not attempt to obstruct? It literally makes no sense.
He's just talking in circles.
Literally makes no sense.
I'm getting serious Howard Baskin vibes off this guy.
You know, Steve Boots made me almost literally pee myself. He refers to him as Mr. Burns.
Mr. Burns, yeah, definitely.
Now, there is a level of energy in his delivery that was definitely not present in the debate. Now, it's not enough to knock your socks off. But where was that guy during the debate, number one? And, you know, he tried to, did you see him try to get some riz by saying, you know, the Conservatives were rocking BC? Not sure that works for you, sir.
Well, also, I'm gonna say this. I'm just gonna throw a still on the screen here for a second, and here's the thing. I don't know who decided to put a gigantic flag of the province behind him, but they look like horns.
Yeah.
or either horns or he's sitting on like a giant throne. It just bad look. What were they
That is a
thinking?
bad that is a bad look, yes.
The framing of it
And
is terrible.
yes. And then when we stand on values, I'm sorry that provoked an eye roll. I guess it depends on which values you're choosing, I guess.
Yeah.
That one. But yeah, he won't do a thing. He promised we are going to obstruct, and we are going to try to break down the government any chance to get. So again, telling the voters now again to his base, we missed this by one. Let's roll the dice and go again.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I was saying the other way. The NDP might be thinking the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Right. When they're saying, are we going to make a supply and confidence agreement? And the Greens turn around and say, okay, but you have to give us proportional representation. And let's say the NDP doesn't want to do that. The Greens will say, oh, then fine. Let's go. We'll be going to an election. Maybe the NDP wants to say, hey, we missed a majority by one. Let's roll the dice again.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we know how to unacceptable. These guys haven't had a chance to get better yet. And now we know how to. We saw what happened in New. We can call some friends in New Brunswick and say, hey, how did you do it? And help us run the next one. If I was a member of the Liberal Party of Canada right now, I would be on the phone with the person who coordinated the campaign in New Brunswick and said, can you get your butt up here, please?
Yeah. Well, something that's concerning to me as of late, and I'm sure you've noticed this too, and I noticed this in a few different writings throughout the province of New Brunswick, where they're saying, see, this is where vote splitting hurts us. Like, vote splitting? I get it. You wanted the Liberal candidate to win by a landslide, and they barely won because a lot of votes went to the Green Party. Except that's not vote splitting. That's giving people choices. Now, granted, if you have two left-leaning parties, they kind of come to loggerheads over things. But in this instance, the Green Party is not what you'd call left-leaning. They're conservatives. They're progressive conservatives who care about the environment. That's all they've ever been. And people seem to have this misunderstanding that they're tree-hugging, granola-crunching, Birkenstock-wearing hippies, but they're not. I mean, the party leader is Elizabeth May. She was a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
They're not
and
hippies.
a minister.
Yes. So it's like, no. That's not vote splitting, number one. And what are you saying? You want to go to a two-party system like the U.S.?
Yeah.
That's not good. So I hate that messaging when people say, oh, they're vote splitting. I know what you're trying to say, and I don't necessarily disagree with the result. However, taking choices away from people by saying, no, you should just merge those two parties into one, then we'll have a choice between A or B. No, I don't want that.
No. And I mean, it works both ways. Sonia Furstenau lost her seat because there weren't enough conservatives that were willing to switch to Green to defeat the minister that she was running against, the incumbent minister. Or not enough NDPers abandoned their representatives that they elected last time with whom they were happy, or to give their vote to another party leader.
Oh, I wasn't
sometimes
picking on hippies, by the way. I wasn't picking on hippies. I was just trying to make a statement.
Yeah, yes. So, not everything is vote splitting. Sometimes it is, right? You can't just look at the numbers and say, oh my God, if those numbers added to that numbers, then sometimes it's not that easy.
Exactly.
Because every electoral district has its own sort of story, right? It's 338, if we're talking federally, little elections. And then we accumulate all that data together, and then we get a parliament.
Right.
And then whatever happens based on all our parliamentary conventions from that point on.
And you remember in Newfoundland a number of years ago, former premier, whose name is escaping me at the moment, progressive conservative premier, after having a conversation with then Prime Minister Stephen Harper, Harper said, I don't need Newfoundland and Labrador to win. He went out and urged the citizens of Newfoundland and Labrador to vote anyone but conservative.
Danny Williams,
thank you. He's anyone but conservative. He says, I don't care who you vote for, just don't vote Conservative. And I'm like,
and then Newfoundland did.
yeah, exactly that. They're like, okay, we got you, brother. Hey, look, like or love Danny Williams or hate him, he was loved in that province. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. I know. It's just I had some of the things he said and did, just like I do with any politician at any given moment in time. Was he perfect? No. No politician is perfect. And perfection doesn't exist in our world. Remember, we're flawed humans. That being said, I like the man. I think he was a straight shooter. He didn't put up with bullshit, and he fought for the citizens of the provinces of Newfoundland and Labrador, period.
Yep.
He fought for them. He went to bat for them. Says, do not vote for the party that I represent. We're separate parties. I'm provincial. He's federal. And that Fed is not progressive at all.
Mm-hmm. It was over the Atlantic Accords, I believe.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Harper tried to screw them over. They had a deal. And then, well, one side thought they had a deal until they found out they didn't. Mm-hmm. All right. Next clip is Premier David Eby. Or I don't know. I guess is it still Premier designate at this point? Because it has the votes hasn't been, or does he keep on being Premier? Yeah, because I think you stop being Premier. Yeah, because you go into caretaker mode, so you stop being Premier officially when you go into election until it's settled. So yeah, you're still candidate, I guess, or Premier designate so far, or redesignate.
I don't know. Let's have a listen to what he had to say, though.
Thank you, friends. It's so good to see you. It's been a night, hey? It's been a night. It's so good to be with you here on the territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. This has been a very, very hard-fought campaign, and we knew that every vote would matter, and that has certainly been the case. And it looks like we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. Now, we don't know what the final count's going to be in the province, but what we do know is that there was a clear majority for the progressive values that are so important to all of us here in the room. And I take a lot of comfort from that. There was also another message in this narrowest of margins. That's we got to do better. And that was our commitment to British Columbians. We got to do better, and we will do better. We will do better. We'll support people at the cost of daily life. We'll support them with affordable housing and better health care and a strong and prosperous economy and safe communities. We're going to do that work. Let me tell you, I know that you deserve, that British Columbians deserve, that our whole province deserves a premier that's going to bring us together, not drive us apart. And I promise to be that premier, to bring British Columbians together. Because despite all of our differences in this amazing place we call home, we have so many shared values. We love this amazing place, British Columbia. I need to thank, just looking out in this room, I see people who put so much effort in. You worked so hard. You are the smallest selection of the team that ran this campaign. And I am so grateful to all of you. It was incredible. It was incredible. The campaign team led by Marie Delamattia, thank you. You were awesome. To every candidate that put their name forward for election, almost every candidate, I'm going to leave one off my thank you list. But to almost every candidate that put their name forward for election, thank you for putting your name forward from all the parties. And when you put your name forward for election, you're putting forward a vision for the province, and you're putting yourself out there. And it's a time when you and your families and others may be targeted on social media. And I want to say thank you for putting your name forward to make our province a better place, even if you ran with another party.
Oh, sorry, I cut that short. I didn't mean to. I hit the wrong button. My apologies. I'll bring it right back.
We disagree on many things, John Rustad and I. There's no question. But I will absolutely acknowledge that he spoke to the frustrations of a lot of British Columbians. Frustrations about the costs of daily life, frustrations about crime and public safety, and we can agree on these things. We need to support people with the costs of daily life. We need to make life more affordable for British Columbians. And we need to make communities safe for everybody. And we will do these things. And I also tonight spoke with Sonia Furstenau. And I congratulated her on running a strong campaign, on her contributions to this province in the 2017 Parliament. And since then, she ran a strong and principled campaign, and I'm grateful for that. And there are many values that we share in common with the Green Party. And I am committed to working with them on our common and shared values.
I think you're muted.
There we go. So there, interesting. We have a battle of spin here. Right, Rustad. No, we're so close. We need to make the government fall and roll the dice and go again. And this one, it's not over yet, but I'm willing to work with the Greens if this is what it is, and it's a clear majority for progressive views if you add the 40 the percentage of the vote that his party got with the 8% of the Greens, but that just brings it to 53, right? It's not that huge, but that's the attempt to spin because if he wins, he's going to have to work with the Greens. So that's
Well,
the Greens basically it lays the ground for the Greens should work for us because the majority of the province voted more basic, more
progressive.
More
yeah.
that.
But the final count won't be until the 26th, from the 26th to the 28th of October. They've got those 2 days, or 3 days, I guess, 26th, 27th, 28th of October before the final count is released. So things could change between now and then. We don't know.
Yeah, things could change. So, but using the proper tone, but then later on when you get to the fact, the acknowledgement of that which Mr. Rustad spoke to.
Mm-hmm.
There's a need to go do better. That was a proper tone.
Agreed.
That was a proper choice of tone for the occasion. Because he could have gone in there and gone, woohoo, it's just by one, but a win's a win. So, hey, elections have consequences. Let's kick their asses. Right? Thank you for the resounding mandate. This was the right tone. So
I agree. I think it was the right tone.
We wait.
Wait and see.
We wait and see. Let's see. You have a hard out. So
10 minutes. Yeah.
We'll wind down the show, but I believe you had something Eminem-ish.
Yeah.
To show. This I saw this, and my first thought was, this is a cultural moment.
Oh yeah.
So this is from our cousins south of us, Kits and Cubs.
Well, and Michigander, Eminem, Marshall Mathers, along with her buddy, your old pal Jake. I haven't had a chance to talk to Jake about this, but we should probably get him on the show again real soon. I'd like to hear his take on this, because this is a monumental moment, and not just in pop culture history, but just straight up
And like
American
intersection
history.
of like two different cultures, and
Yeah.
like there's a lot going on here.
Here we go. It's only 1:39, but check this out.
This road together through the storm, whatever weather.
I got to kill that for a second because we're going to get a copyright violation.
Right.
I'm sorry. It's really frustrating when that happens. Once he steps to the mic, we're okay to go. The thing is, it's a news clip, and yet here we are.
Detroit! What up, though? So look, I wrote down a few things I wanted to say. I love you too. Thank you. I'm here tonight for a couple of important reasons. As most of you know, the city of Detroit and the whole state of Michigan mean a lot to me. And going into this election, the spotlight is on us more than ever, and I think it's important to use your voice. So I'm encouraging everybody to get out and vote, please. I also think that people shouldn't be afraid to express their opinions. And I don't think anyone wants an America where people are worried about retribution or what people will do if you make your opinion known. I think Vice President Harris supports a future for this country where these freedoms and many others will be protected and upheld. And here to tell you much more about that, President Barack Obama.
So yeah, cultural shift there, right?
Okay.
It's no secret that he hates Trump. He's been vocal about it. He's written diss tracks about it. He's released songs about it. But this is the first time he's come out and straight up and supported a candidate.
Exactly. Like, it's not that Eminem is not political, but he was not known to do politics. And there he was in the state, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the lady at the end that you saw very briefly was, nope, I was wrong. I thought that was Dana Nessel, but it might. So he was introduced. The part that you didn't see in that clip is he was introduced by someone from the party. He comes out. It's Eminem. Okay. Number one, Eminem, with all the stuff that everybody associated with him at first, right? Misogynist, homophobic, all that type of stuff. And then he did that Grammy thing with Elton John.
Yeah.
And that hugged. It's like, wait a minute, is he homophobic?
Yeah.
Or was it, right? There's Stan, there's Slim Shady, there's Eminem, right? There's characters. This guy is not just one level rap, right?
Called nuance.
No, but he works on many levels.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Coming out to put his face, his name, and public support for a black woman for president. And then he introduces President Barack Obama. So somebody introduces him, and they think that that's the big thing, and then Eminem introduces Barack Obama. Come on.
But I was feeling some kind of way following Eminem. Now I notice my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, vomit on my sweater already, mom's spaghetti. I'm nervous, but on the surface I look calm and ready to drop bombs, but I keep on forgetting. Dun, 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 dun. I thought Eminem was going to be performing. I was going to jump out. Love me some Eminem.
All right. Now, you got to remember that the narrative in the States. Okay, first of all, this is going to be right up there. Right up there with Amazing Grace.
Oh, yeah.
And Let's Stay Together. Don't forget Let's Stay Together. He can croon, that man. But now he's rapping. And the whole thing in the States, right, is Kamala Harris has a problem with men. Kamala Harris needs white men. Kamala Harris is losing black men. Enter Eminem. It's like, you're trying to think like, okay, Taylor Swift, yes, absolutely. Beyonce, you freaking bet. Who else? Eminem. It was so damn obvious the whole damn time. Never occurred to me until I saw it. It was like, of course, damn, you get Eminem. Who else? This is freaking genius. That's all. As a comms person, whomever, bowing down. Wow, that's a coup.
Well, here's an interesting quote from somebody online. It says, pay attention. Eminem was right about Diddy, and Eminem was right about Trump. Maybe we should start listening to Eminem.
And apparently, Donald Trump, if you keep him talking long enough, there's no group he's going to piss off. He wants to go after violent video games. Yeah. It's like, do you know who your demographic is?
Yeah.
The people who play Fortnite and like, really? You want to come after their? Do you really want to win this election, dude?
That sound of defeat you hear is the collective sighs of a few million conservative dude bros who have worshipped an idea of Eminem their entire lives and just found out tonight what he actually stands for. That's from Charlotte Clymer.
Turns out Eminem be woke.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
who knew? Everybody who was paying attention.
Doesn't come as a surprise to me.
Oh, man. All right. Kits and Cubs. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do indeed.
All right, Kits and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Ooh, I do have a little bass there today. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless. So please tell your peeps and poops all about us. And if you do not want to miss an episode, you do not have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, who has sponsored our pod page. Longtime sponsor. We are very grateful. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you're watching, you can scan that QR code. And also, big thanks to the Ray Girl. She had a set of tickets for the fabulous Thunderbirds concert in Kingston that she cannot go to. So guess who's going to get to go instead?
Oh, good. Have a good time.
Yay. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the thoughtfulness. You're the best. You really are too good to us. But thank you. Please don't stop. If you would like to support us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and surf on down to the True North Eager Beaver YouTube page and click on our buttons like, share, and subscribe. It makes us happy when you do. And I just realized, Kits and Cubs, that I did not have the chat on my screen the entire show, so I have no idea what any of you said. I'm so sorry. So I wasn't ignoring you. I just forgot to click the button. I'm so sorry. So yes, please go to our YouTube page, click like, share, and subscribe, and that helps us out a lot. Now, if you'd like to support us in other ways, the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's Head brings you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And if you go there and can leave us a little financial love, well, we would appreciate that very much. There are some costs to putting on this show, and anything that you can do to help us with that is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. And if you are not able to help financially, please don't worry, because the gift of your attention and participation are those that we cherish the most. And we love to hear from you. So please write to us, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. Write to us at our Twitter feed @trueeager, our Facebook page, True North Eager Beaver, or leave us a comment here on our YouTube page. We do try to read everything, even though we cannot get back to everyone all the time. But we thank you. Everything that you contribute helps makes our show better. Now, if okay, oh, Mr. Grizzly says that he has an Easter egg, so I can't wait to see what that is. Let's see. Oh, yes, if you're listening to us on podcast, Apple Podcast, please leave us some stars and reviews. That helps us with the algorithm. Thank you very much for that. Because democracy is something that you do. If you live in Saskatchewan, please get ready. We have an election coming up on the 28th, and you've seen what's happened in New Brunswick. You've seen what's happened in New Brunswick. You've seen what happened in British Columbia. So far, it looks like Conservatives are 0 for 2.
Mm-hmm.
You have the permission structure now. You've seen in New Brunswick that movement just get totally repudiated.
Well, I saw some commentary this morning from people that I've known for many, many years who are disgusted at the election. I'm like, okay. Really shocking, considering that some of the people who said those things have children. Daughters.
Yikes.
I guess they weren't paying attention to what was really going on and only heard what they wanted to. I don't know. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not. It just strikes me as, man, you weren't paying attention. Got to remember who Blaine Higgs was, an oil man for the Irving Company for decades. Who was he interested in? The wealthy. Who is he not interested in? The rest of us. Pretty simple, right?
Yeah. And this Kits and Cubs, if you're in Saskatchewan, is what might be giving a lot of people some hope here.
Mm-hmm.
So
well,
in
we'll
Citrix, that's one poll that says that Saskatchewan says that the NDP is ahead of the Sask Party 50 to 45. Now, they are an outlier, and they are not the most highly rated, and they are the only ones showing consistently the NDP in the lead for a while. So either they're seeing something that others are not, or there's something wrong. But like I said, Scott Moe is campaigning like he's losing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's something to it. And in Saskatchewan, it seems that I was watching a Steve Spoots special. There's something terrible that happened. It seems that there was somebody complained about two 10-year-old trans kids, I guess, changing in a change room that was appropriate for them. And not that anything bad happened. They were just changing. And apparently that story got out. And it seems that media people decided to find out who those two kids were and kind of released their identities. So
10 years old. The hell.
That may be something that ends crossing a line for a lot of people. I'm assuming that the people of Saskatchewan are as good as the people in New Brunswick.
Mm.
And that might be, now that what they see what that looks like in real life, they got a taste.
Yeah.
That might snap a few spines.
I hope so.
In position. Let's hope, because that is not okay under any circumstance. And tomorrow we'll show you some speeches from Susan Holt, and there's a special mission of her family that she decided to bring in.
Mm. I think it's appropriate. Are we going to be able to get her on the show anytime soon?
I will write. I would hope so.
Yeah.
We have established history, and they know that we don't do the gotcha questions and that type of thing. So
absolutely not. Well, we could carve out time to record if need be. If she can't do a live, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. So all that stuff going on, Kits and Cubs. All right. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom before we go.
Yeah. Stay ever vigilant, friends. I know I've said it before. I'll say it again. Democracy could very much be in peril if we don't get out and exercise our right to vote. Not a privilege. It's your right. And I suggest you take advantage of that right and get out there and cast a ballot.
All right. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
Okay, I have a quick Easter egg for you that I think you will find interesting, and it might explain a lot of things about what's taking place in the province of Alberta and some of the plans that Pierre Poilievre may have in store for us if he becomes Prime Minister. And this is all about the U.S. election and Trump, and it goes back quite a ways, to be honest with you. But let's watch this little 1 minute and 28-second clip that sums it up.
Anything to do with school choice, but also separate from school choice, we're going to take the Department of Education, close it. I'm going to close it.
Why do you think Donald Trump wants to close the Department of Education? Why do you think we have people like Charlie Kirk every day trying to tell young people how bad college is? Why do you think all of this is happening? It's because Republicans lose to educated voters. Always. This has nothing to do with improving education and everything to do with winning future elections. Do you really think they care about your kids' education? Education is now the best predictor for how someone will vote. They want you dumb so they can win. And they want as many of you as possible to be dumb because they need people who will believe the dumb shit they say. There is nothing worse for a billionaire class than to have to deal with more educated people. Education is a direct threat to the billionaire class. Thanks.
Now,
Boom.
where that gets interesting is, remember here, we want a working class, not an educated class. Rockefeller said that. John D. Rockefeller. A working class, not an educated class. That way they can control us.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, they're privatizing education in the province of Alberta, they're privatizing healthcare, and they're handing it all over to a religious organization, which means that the public is not being served properly. The public is being harmed. Public education needs to remain public. That's all I got for today. I got to go.
All right.
I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.